Hi guys, we are live, right?
Yeah, sounds
Yes.
good.
Absolutely.
Jasper, Anna, Petri, thanks. I had a chance to speak with Jasper and Anna both, and Petri, not yet, but we'll have a good chance today. So thank you guys all for your time joining us both in the presentation of this panel discussion now, but also in the afternoon jury as well. So this session is, of course, Nordics, as we've run across the globe today, starting in Australia, Japan. We've been UK, Germany, now Nordics. We finish up in the US in the afternoon. And the general subject is what can Central East European technology companies do better, or do or stop doing if they're not doing things right, to get more business from Nordics, Scandinavian SMEs, big companies, even startups. And we've got a good overview. I think Petri, you're in Helsinki, and then we've got Copenhagen, more or less Copenhagen, and Anya is in Stockholm. Most of you are big companies, relatively big companies, and so you kind of have almost the enterprise angle. But I will ask each of you then to just introduce yourselves first of all, and I'll start with ladies first, Anna, and Martin Kari, and then kind of start the conversation, and I'll go back to Anna to kind of tell us a bit about what Telly is doing in this space.
So, Anna Martinkari, I am the head of digital for Telia Sweden. So my teams work with all of the customer-facing touch points, all the customer meetings for Telia Sweden. And we do that up till the point where someone actually has to start coding. So then we move over to my colleagues in IT, which is a global organization supporting all the countries, where we then get the resources, development, front-end, back-end, architects, scrum masters, everything that you might need to develop a first-class digital experience come from the IT partner in CPS, what they're called. So that is sort of the structure and super tiny elevator pitch of me. I think I have the most fun job in Telia, but also sometimes the most challenging one, because digitalization, obviously, and transformation is what everyone does and what everyone needs to be doing. But it's not just, a snap of a finger in an incubant that has been around for 167 years. But I think we have the understanding from senior management and we have the push. So that's about where we are right now.
So let's come back to you, Anna. But Anna, Petri, quick intro of yourself and Valmet.
Okay, yes. So my name is Petri Hassinen. It's Petri H. And I'm currently now at Valmet, and I have a nice shirt, but I think the camera is somehow twisted. So it says that turning data into value. So my role and responsibility is heading the data to the future at Valmet, and I have a pretty extensive background in multinational corporations in various roles. And then I'm also acting as a board member in few companies. So what my mission is both at Valmet and data in general is to bring the data and digital acumen at a board level so that companies can better succeed in the next 5-10 years.
Okay, Jasper.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation, by the way, Tom. Jesper Frederiksen, and I'm with the company called Velox. And Velox, for those of you who don't know that, is a Windows manufacturer. So roof windows and facade windows in commercial buildings and in residential buildings. My role here is, there's an echo. I don't know where that comes from, but anyways, it's gone now. No, it's still there. My role here is the VP of Digital Enablement, and I'm also the CIO. We are, just like Anna was saying, on a journey like anybody else right now, a digitization journey, if you will, digital transformation across the board, not just driven by or pushed by the technology organization, but across the organization. We have great ambitions in the IoT space and the utilization of data towards our customers, and creating more intelligent homes and more intelligent windows and indoor climate and all kinds of fun things. And I'm helping the company realize that ambition. I joined only 5 months ago, so I'm fairly new to Velux. I joined from Mars, the large chocolate company that is also producing many other things. I've spent the last many years in the US and just returned last year back to Europe. So I've been working for a number of large industrial and different kinds of industries in the US, and have had several different roles. Been doing startups also in Silicon Valley, and been doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We can talk about that later, perhaps. You got to unmute yourself, Tom.
Thank you. So Anja, if you would kick off the panel discussion a little bit and tell us a bit about what Telia is doing in the digital space, to what extent you're using outsourced type of or third-party vendors or external vendors. Just tell us a bit about how that process is working. And again, the context is connecting to Central East Europe and opportunities here. By the way, Telia, of course, has a big shared service center in Vilnius, as I understand, and Velux has a quite big one in Warsaw, as does Mars in Poznan. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. As I said in the beginning, I am more in the role of a stakeholder and a sort of a requirements unit for the people that we then employ on the development side. And we do work with Vilnius. So I have the product owners for some of the applications that we have are in my team. And then we have the IT teams for the front and back end in Vilnius. And it's been working amazingly. So we have very good experiences from that. I would say what we're doing now, I think that with the situation we're in, obviously, Sweden has chosen a little bit of a different path. So we haven't been sort of on the full lockdowns and well, what has been in many other countries. So the digitalization has been ongoing for a long time in Sweden. I think the first net banks came in like 96 something. So the Swedish population is very used to self-service and digital tools in their everyday economy. And so that means for us as Telia, the customers have been ready for a very long time. And I think that the opportunity now is that we see people just want things to work. They want them to work on their terms, and they want it to work seamlessly whenever they sort of have the need. So I think our focus a lot is on facilitating that. It may seem like I should be saying that we're going to transform and be the biggest and best telco and yada yada. Of course, we are going to be that as well. But I think the focus now is on eliminating every hurdle, everything that can possibly make it difficult for a customer to live in our digital touchpoints and ecosystem. So that is very much the focus for us right now. So looking at all our platforms, the entire customer meeting, really doing a 360 on where we are at and setting the ambition level quite aggressively, I would say, and pushing for that. You're on mute, Tom.
Yeah. So Jasper and Petri, just jump in as you like to, and I'd like to hear kind of from your side as well. Same sort of issues, concerns, opportunities, and then just have the conversation. But let's have Jasper talk a bit more about Velux, and you're new at the operation. What do you see as a fresh eyes, fresh face in Velux, and what they're planning to do?
I see a lot of opportunity. Right. One thing is on the product side, what can be done there using technology and especially data. So I'm very curious in that space, and also want to bring something to the table there. If we look at sort of other areas and where we source the kind of support and help we need and we get, like you rightly said, Tom, we are right now in Warsaw with a relatively large shared services center, where we source a lot of our back office services and processes out of, and that space is growing pretty rapidly, and we have had very good success with that and are very happy with that. We're also building other more specialized, call it services centers in Eastern Europe right now, as our nearshoring sort of space, and obviously we have a lot in the Far East as well, and in the Philippines and what have you. But our journey is our limitation is I would say to realize our ambitions and to accelerate on our journey is competencies. And getting the right competencies to solve the right problems for us. Sometimes when you are in an enterprise in a large company, there are so many things that you could be doing and maybe should be doing. The fine balance is finding the right challenges and the right problems to solve, and getting the right competencies and right people to solve them. And that's one of the challenges we have here in Denmark. Like I said, where our headquarters is to get competencies here, and so we're looking elsewhere to find competencies that are the competencies that are needed. And like I said before, it's especially within the data space and advanced analytics, data science, where we're a little bit short, and which is a pity, because that's really a growth area for us. I mean, as a hardware or Windows manufacturer, we are, like I said initially, moving towards a situation where we're both doing that and are a services business and a software business. So that transformation requires skills, competencies, processes that we need to establish and that we need to build. And exactly that build. Should we build that ourselves, or should we source that outside? That's really the another challenge of ours, or balance that we're trying to maneuver.
And that was going to be exactly my question, because Velux has again SSE shared service centers, and you've chosen mostly to have those resources internally, kind of controlled by you guys, in captive centers, right? Do you see that shifting, changing, because you can't control everything and you can't know everything? But you just mentioned you have specialized centers that you look at setting up across the region as well. Tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it's basically some sort of a rationalization that we're going through right now to identify, to figure out, does it make sense for us to source or to build up knowledge ourselves, or should we source that outside from other companies? And I think that probably differs from company to company where and how you want to strike that balance. But for us, it's important that we have in-house, so to speak, maybe not a large volume of people, but more specialized people who knows about our business, our industry, and where you can bridge technology and business opportunities and growth. Maybe most company does that, but that's sort of the process that I would say we're going through right now, recognizing that we have also built these fairly large centers, and we're yielding a lot of positives and a lot of efficiencies out of that. But we are in this sort of, I don't know, on a journey right now where we are sort of looking for ways to simplify, to rationalize, and to be much more efficient.
Okay. Petri, some comments from your side?
Okay, I hope it's not my mic that is circulating, but if we get bad noise, so we get it. So I think this is kind of pretty simple. I think there are 3 layers of, if we look at it from business point of view. So I think at least Anna knows it, that all of the Nordic companies are kind of working on 3 different things at the same time, and there's actually 4. So one of them is cost management. To be serious that the cost is important, and all the CIOs and CDOs, and I mean, Anna, your role is a bit different, so you don't have to bother with the network cost and so forth and the cloud cost. And that's not the point of this kind of discussion. But then there are 3 others. So most of the companies are still working to work out the legacy solutions that they have built, let's say for like 20 years, even 30 years in some cases. So we still have some mainframe setups, but okay, those are mostly gone. So we have to kind of get this legacy connected to digital. And then when you get your legacy connected to digital, So then most of the companies have this kind of, digital accelerators, and Telia might be doing one thing for the customer and one thing for the internal operations. So you optimize yourself and you make better customer experience. So that's the second thing. But then the third thing, which I think that will emerge in the next 2-3 years in a big scale, is that the innovation doesn't reside in any one company. So I can already see that what we could do with Telia, or what we could do with our customer with UPM, which comes in the game of how can we co-innovate between companies. So the three things are simple, that in the Nordics, at least what I see companies, we still have a lot of legacy topics that we need to handle in our infrastructure where we operate. The second thing is that everybody is working on, let's make it better for the customer. Let's make it better for the internal operations. And now what will come with all the enabled technologies and data is the fact that, if we want to make new business models, new exciting things, it's most likely that it will not happen in one company alone. So that's when the partnerships come along. And that's when it gets also very interesting, that what are the different things that we can do with data, we can do with open systems, we can do with AI and so forth. So those are things that I see, but I still see at Nordics, I think we are still a little bit in the legacy and trying to fix our own stuff and then putting something on top of it. And I don't know, Anna, Jesper, how do you see that? But I think those are the three things.
I agree. I mean, you could probably add a little bit more to it, but I would say to the last point about whether it's only in the Nordics, having just spent a lot of years in the US and American companies, there are similar challenges with legacy that needs to be fixed as well. Because in many cases, whether you like it or not, the legacy is oftentimes the foundation we need to use to move to the next level, or to take advantage of new technologies or other technologies. So we cannot ignore the legacy. So we need to again, it's a balance that needs to be placed right. I also think that the focus, maybe Peter, you should mute your mic because it's doing some echoing. Thank you. I think what you mentioned about the customer or the user experience or the customer centricity, I think that's a very, very obvious, but also in my view, underestimated area where we need to be stronger and where we need to be better. There's a lot of, also in that respect, legacy or assumptions about how things are and how things were. But I mean, just look at the past year, what has happened and what has turned everything upside down. We need to engage with our customers in different ways than we've done before, with our entire ecosystem in different ways than we've done before. And also like your perspective on this modular or all these partners that we need to collaborate with in order to proceed, in order to move forward. Because I mean that's sort of in my view, that's where and how also technologies over the past couple of years have been moving into this space where you are dependent upon different pieces of technologies, almost like Lego blocks that needs to be able to fit. You need to be able to fit them together. And the same with your ecosystem of partners and the ecosystem of your customers, so to speak. So the company's ability to leverage partners, technologies, and partners in the customer ecosystem is going to be key. It's sort of a modular thinking approach that we need to apply here, if that makes sense.
I think that is that's exactly how we look at it as well. And I think that the interesting discussion around legacy is just what is your mindset to the legacy you have. And I think for us, it's been a big discussion that's obviously been accelerated over the past year. That, I mean, legacy is something that we all have if we've existed more than a few years. We definitely have it, but it's the way you approach it that is going to be the definer if you make it or not. It's not a hindrance, it's a factor. And that's how I think you should see it. And from my perspective, being the driver of the customer meeting and being the responsible one for the customer satisfaction, and is it easy to use? Is it pleasurable? Is it exciting? Has it got a wow? then for me, the legacy is a factor that I need to be pushing my IT partners to fix. So for me, it's like, I know it's there, but I don't really care because we have this and this and this agenda. So it's up to us to sort of find a solution. And I think that legacy has been something that people have been sort of bringing up as this like mega mountain, but it's going to be there regardless of if you start in 2 years or if you start in 5. So if you started now, in the 2 years, you would be done. So it's, see it as a factor and not as something that should hinder.
And then, Anna, we can take a really easy example from the banking industry. You know, PSD2 came along, so let's open up everything. So then if you look at the banks, at least in Denmark and Sweden and Finland, they have like massive IT organization. It's like, you just saw what Nordea announced that they are going to outsource 350 people. So what is it about? It's about the legacy. So when these regulations change, so what happens? So there will be kind of small players who adopt faster the fact that the interfaces will be open and they are able to do a totally different kind of banking experience for the end consumer because they don't have the legacy. And now for the big companies, this is of course a big challenge because at the same time that the legacy exists both from the culture point of view and the IT point of view and the structure point of view, they have a really hard time to go over that fence from cultural point of view, that how can we do a different kind of customer experience. And that's really kind of interesting topic because as much as the kind of controls and governance changes, so just imagine, Anna, that it would be free to change your bank account every day. What happened in the kind of Telia's mobile phone industry 10 years ago, what would happen in the banking industry? It would be like people changing kind of banks every day.
Right. I think an element in activating, maybe you want to mute yourself again, Petri, sorry. I think
sorry for the bad.
A key element in sort of in advancing further, right? Advancing on the legacy stuff and the customer experience and all these kinds of things, and at the same time utilizing the partner and the modularity and ecosystems, what have you, is our ability to integrate, right, from a systems perspective, integrate the legacy systems that we cannot upgrade or cannot do anything with the fancy cloud solutions or cloud services that we are dependent upon today to provide the kinds of services quick and fast to our customers. That ability or that code that needs to be cracked there to maneuver between these giant what do I know, ERP systems, whatever it is, and mainframes or whatever it is, with the cloud services. That is something that is high on my radar. Both from a skills perspective, somebody who can do that, but also from a technology standpoint. What opportunities do I have? What platforms do I need to look into? What API structures do I need to build? And what kinds of designs do I need to have in place in order for me to move fast? Because it's not realistic, at least in my case, to keep my legacy up to date constantly. That's not going to happen. So I have to realize that, but I have to unlock or enable them still to be able to communicate to all the fancy stuff that I'm going to be driving as well. I don't know, Anna, if you see it the same way or if you have.
Yeah, you see that I'm nodding a lot. Yeah. And I think that, again, Tom, we discussed yesterday regarding what kind of sort of advice we would have to people who would want to partner with us or work with us. And I think that that's something that you're saying, both Jesper and Petri, that we need people who understand the new landscape. We really need to work with people who can give us sort of what is the best of breed, given the factors that we come with, right? I'm not so interested in like, this is the stack, because that doesn't work anymore, at least in my opinion. I think we would want to go with, again, if it's APIs, microservices, or a combination of really like cutting edge tech, we would need partners who understand that, who've done it before, who can sort of take us a little bit by the hand and sort of help, and so that you have a partnership relationship, not a vendor, supplier, buyer relationship. So really show that you know what you're talking about and that you understand our business and sort of our the place that we are coming from, and don't talk about how would you set up Telia if you were like coming into it anew, because it's an irrelevant question. We're 167 years. We don't have to talk about if we were like a startup, what would that be? Help us become another 167 years, right? So help us to sustain the fantastic business that we have and build something new that works for the future. So that's really one piece of advice.
And
just to build on that one, if I may, Tom, I think this change of relationship also that we have with partners is important, because we are much more, in my view, much more dependent upon smaller players and big players and this variety in players than at least I've been used to in the past, where you had multi-year contracts and all these kinds of things. We need also some different mindsets, in the purchasing and commercial organizations that we have internally, how we deal with and how we contract and all these kinds of things. So basically it's taking and applying some of the agility that we use in our other ways of working into our relationships to external vendors in my view. And what can be a challenge though in what you said there is the experience, especially with when you talk with or about startups, right? Who may not have that long history of a long customer list that they can refer to. And there I think as maybe more established companies, we need to apply also a grain of risk willingness and be ready to I wouldn't say fail, but be ready to learn together with smaller startups who may not have the same kind of experience that we normally ask for, so to speak. So there's also something changing there that we need to be aware of.
Do you all have Velux or Telia, decent sized companies? Do you have corporate venture arms or corporate innovation arms that would bring in these smaller startup companies to kind of go after a new idea that you wouldn't be able to pursue inside a bigger corporation?
Yeah, I mean, that's not. So yeah, we have a couple of different ways. I mean, sometimes we sort of outsource the venture part and the innovation part. Other times we do have some investment or some funds and groups that work with startups and with communities and sort of the rise different stages of the startup journey, so to speak. We are investing in different pieces there, and that actually sits as a pretty high on our business agenda as well. That we have that focus and that we invest in smaller companies that are on the rise or are bringing something that we're not able to deliver or to develop ourselves. That means a lot to us. And I mean, most of the also corporations and conglomerates I've worked with in the US, we have the same structures where you have dedicated accelerators or programs that are supposed to support and to help up and coming startups.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have that. We invested in a small startup once upon a time called Spotify, for example. So it's been a long legacy for Telia to be really part of the startup community. And we have a Division X unit that is sort of our innovation hub that then works with different companies. And then obviously in the technology framework with 5G, there's a lot of things coming if we can just, get 5G on a roll in Sweden. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the key things. Like, how do we, as a huge company, enable ourselves to work with smaller players that can come with something that, because of our structures, we might not be able to see as opportunities. So, but I think definitely.
So Petri, tell us a bit about Valmet, and you didn't mention. I didn't ask you in the beginning, but what are you doing in terms of the technology side on Valmet? Are you using external partners? Do you have like Velux and Telia operations in other parts of the world, India, Central Europe, nearshoring. Tell us a bit more about that. You're mute. You're mute. Yeah.
So
Not me this
let's
time.
see, does the voice work now? It's perfect. So I can only kind of say what Jesper and Anna already said. And then we can turn the table to the next question, because I know that in this call probably there are plenty of companies, or few of them, who come from places like Belarus or Bulgaria, and there's like a 500 people working on coding. And then the question to me, Jesper and Anna, is that, okay, how can we get in? Because I think all of us, we have the same setup, that we are using internal development. We have offshore centers in India. We are using this partner approach. We have hackathons. We are doing various things. So I think for all of the big companies, that's the game. So then how to come in, I think it's always a challenge. I was just discussing with few of the members who joined this great kind of day, is that in big companies, it's always difficult to get in. And I think that, like Anna said, that there has to be need from our side, and then there has to be the competence on the other side. So like if somebody asks me now that, okay, do I need now kind of development from Bulgaria or India or wherever, it's gonna go through the kind of normal processes that we have established. But then one day I might have the need that, hey, now we need this coding, or we need this low coding, or whatever, or now we need the AI kind of component on it. So there's no easy answer for the kind of participants who are listening and thinking that now we do good business with both Telia and Valmet, because we already have an established setup. But what we are consciously looking for, at least at Valmet, is that, okay, how can we renew? How can we make it smarter? How can we make kind of companies working together better? So then it's probably just through kind of connecting, networking, and understanding the customer side as well, that a sales call is never good if the other guy is not kind of having a need. So maybe a little bit vague statement, but that's the way I see it. But then on the other hand, to finish my comment, is that, like Anna said quite well, when we find companies who have something to actually offer, they are innovative, so all of us are probably quite interested.
And I think that, I mean, one way, obviously, I so agree with your comment here on the sort of cold sales emails or calls that I think that we all are getting, that are like, you know, yeah, development, or we do this and we have done this for this. And it feels very impersonal, and it's not really sort of, for me, if I really don't have a need, I'm not even going to read the email to sort of the signature of it. So, and I will not pick up a call if I, you know, don't know the number and it's just, you know, random. I've seen in another market, actually, Tel Aviv, that is a big sort of startup and quite an interesting scene, have been arranging, you know, startup summits, or like this day, for example, you get to meet interesting partners, and they sort of, they show you what could be the potential of a partnership. So the more we can understand how we could use you, the more it will help. But please make it relevant and tailored to us, not just in general for telcos, because that's not relevant enough for me to start a dialogue with someone new, because I have most of the things. And for Telia, I used to work in a very much smaller bank, and when I called, then it wasn't always people picking up the phone as eagerly as they pick up the phone today. So I have no problems finding a partner. It's like, if you want to work with us, you need to really show me the relevance of why I should replace someone with you.
Yeah, and Anna, if I can continue on that, so at least on my table, I have most of the things organized, like probably you as well. So then you might have like this much of a slot where you think that, okay, where do I need something else? And that's the thing then when you get your sales calls, you think that, does it fit this much? No, it doesn't, and it's off the table.
No, but the new ones that we have taken in is people who like, they wow me with some sort of an angle that I haven't thought about. And then not irrelevant is the security aspect, obviously, of outsourcing things. And we have big customers that are, public sector customers in Sweden that cannot have their data transferred anywhere, really. And so understanding those kinds of things and, talking about, you understand GDPR, you understand everything that is going on, that would help me as well, because those are the first questions that sourcing an idea ask me.
And Anna, you also said yesterday you were talking about Israel and as a bit of an example for Central European companies. Talk a bit more about that, please.
I think again, it's up to the kind of partner and vendor that you want to be. The ones I've had the opportunity to meet have been really sort of driving that part where obviously in my interest, the customer meeting and sort of customer interactivity and customer facing solutions, and being really sort of the tech and sort of the underlying aspects of it have been sort of secondary. They're not selling sort of a coding house. They're very much selling a little bit more of an innovative approach. And there's nothing wrong in obviously supplying a lot of great front end and back end people, but there's a lot of that. And so it's difficult to differentiate yourself in comparison to we have India, we have all of these big centers. So that is an angle that at least we appreciated a lot to get to listen to it from sort of a how do you use it perspective and what can it give you instead of how is it done, what is our structure and process. That's it's interesting later, right?
Yeah. Okay. Jasper, any thoughts on that as well?
It's just reflecting on what is the differentiator. I mean, what makes me pick it up, right? These cold calls or pieces of communication. And I was just thinking how important networking is. Things like this event, for instance, or that Anna or Petri recommends something or somebody to me. That there's another credibility to it compared to the usual sales guy, if you will. And I was just reflecting on how important that actually is. Because when I, for instance, when I do pick something up that looks interesting, my first sort of reaction is typically not to reach back out to those who sent something to me, but maybe to somebody in my network and say, hey, do you know these guys? Have you worked with these guys? Is there somebody who's been working with these guys before?
Yeah.
And then sort of build up my understanding of that technology or that partner before I actually engage with that partner. Maybe that's something for the audience here to consider as well. How to it's almost like being an influencer, right? How do you activate a lot of people and get them to know about your services or your technologies without maybe even wanting to sell it to them, but just make sure that they know about you.
Yeah, yes, but I can super agree on that, because probably next time I will ask both of you that is this a good company? And that's the way it goes. But there's also kind of this upside that we all need good people. So when we find a good company to work with, we are likely to stick with them pretty long time. So you guys know how it goes, because we all have our kind of let's say target set, and we want to get the target done. And then when you find good people with whom you can trust in a partnership that it will happen, so I think we all are like, thank you.
Yes.
So
that's true.
So that's how it goes.
Yeah. So also a bit more, if you talked about networking, seeing presentations, if you had, let's say, 3 or 4 presentations or things you'd like to hear about from a company, what would they be? Are they AI? Or are they case studies? Are they IoT? I mean, why don't each of you give me 3 things, and ideally 3 different things from each of you, of what would be the kind of the ideal, cutting edge, relevant presentation pitch you'd like to hear about. it was a 3 minute, you got 3 minutes. Wow me with your AI application for telecoms XYZ. What do we got?
I mean, I think the simple answer for me, at least, is wow me with something that is relevant for me. I mean, usually it's about, we are now working on a solution. Unfortunately, it's not launched. It will launch in 2 days, so I can't talk about it yet. But that's not sort of, it's not a rocket science thing. It's just a new way of solving an old problem. And that's sort of where we really find the innovations that make a difference, because this is going to things we didn't do before. It's going to make it easier for our customers, and it's going to increase our sales. But it's not rocket science. But before we talked to this company, we were like, oh my God, how long is this going to take to build, and how can we put it in the... And now it's just a couple of weeks, and we most likely have a beta launch in 2 days. So those kinds of things. So show me new solutions to old problems and make it relevant for me. That would be my elevator pitch.
Yeah, I would kind of echo that, because it's, to me, what matters is that, and that whomever is trying to pitch something understands my context, or the context in which I work with or within, right? So the relevancy, as you mentioned, Anna, is about, well, do you understand the types of challenges that exist in our context, in our environments, because that immediately increases the relevancy and the credibility of a partner if there is an understanding in that respect. And I would say that I think for all of us, and we even talked about this on this call as well, data seems to be a key word. How to utilize data in ways that helps us grow, either directly grow the business, or grow in terms of efficiencies or optimizations. In my case, I mean, IoT is a thing, because we produce a physical product that we want to connect to, and that we are connecting to it already, but that we want to build into larger ecosystems. So somebody who understands, for instance, that context and what that could look like, and help me, visualize or inspire me to see, what I've not thought of, this could eventually become. Because a lot of the bright ideas comes actually outside our own context, from different perspectives, from different angles, and just helps, sort of rocks the boat a little bit. So I would say that's probably some of the things that I would advise or appreciate by somebody wanting to pitch something to me. Yeah.
Petri, thoughts on that?
It's a good question, and because I'm kind of running data, I thought that I never go back to it. 2006, I had a Germany implementation of one big company who makes elevators and escalators. And I started my pitch that the data is the most boring topic that you will ever hear from. And if somebody can wow me with data, I'm all ears, because that's my currently primary responsibility. Of course, I do other things as well. So if somebody can come up with something on data that is relevant and meaningful, so I'm all in. Then if you look at the bigger picture and a context, so I think what will wow both Jesper and Anna, because we are running kind of against business development. So anything that can be fast adopted, integrated, deployed easily towards the business, so that's a wow factor. We are long past the ages of setting up a one-year project of coding and then trying to get people involved. So anything that is kind of smart, quick, either for the customer or for the internal people, that it makes us look good, it makes easy for the business, that we can easily deploy. So that's always something that then I know that Anna and Jesper will say yes, because those projects are nice, they are fun, and they will get great results. So all the things where we have kind of this fast time for the benefit, and even faster time for the benefit realization, that people will say that this is fantastic. Those are great projects. And those are also great partners to have with us, because we have moved from this old legacy setup to a place where we can just simply connect. Let's put teams together with our CRM and let's make this stuff and let's interface with the customer in 6 weeks. So anything that is something like that, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And with the low cost and without, it should be free.
No,
but you guys know what I mean.
Absolutely.
And then at the same time, we have these boring projects that will take 2-3 years that you just have to do, but they are really, really painful.
I think
that's a good point, actually, because those kinds of things also make it really exciting for the teams, also working with those longer things, that you have these like quick wins and things that you actually feel that you are doing some cutting edge stuff. But I think one of the things that made us go with this company was also the ease in testing them, in trying them out. So they were very much like, okay, we have a setup fee. It's not big, but if you want to continue in X when we have the period of trial sort of ending, then this is the cost. And I think that for us, it's super good to have that, because obviously when we do an investment, it's hopefully for a longer term, but it's also a process for us and for me to initiate those kinds of sourcing things with sort of the internal structure that we have. So make it easy also to try you out. That's also one of the suggestions.
So Petri, I'll use your data issue to get back to a question to Anya. I mean, data is, of course, the basic tool for AI in a way, right? You need lots of data to work on artificial intelligence for the most part. And back to 5G and IoT, Anna, tell us a bit more of how you think the 5G is going to affect IoT, and just give us a bit of the vision of Telia in terms of how that's really going to affect the world in the next 2 or 3 years.
Anna, advice. Don't tell everything.
Exactly. This is exactly the things that we normally don't talk too much about. Obviously, I mean, 4G just turned like 10, I think, and it's been that already has been sort of a differentiated, or at least for the consumers, to be able to stream and sort of be pretty seamless in their sort of digital experiences. But 5G is going to take it to I mean, Pokemon Go it's going to seem slow when this is implemented in bigger scale. If you're a gamer, the slicing of the network, that is going to make everything much faster, and looking at how we can then digitalize areas that aren't necessarily easily accessible with 5G is going to also make a big difference for how customers have access to being connected. So there are a ton of right now more experimental partnerships that we are doing with sort of self-driving cars, with mines in the north of Sweden where 5G is. And through 5G technology, we are manning the trucks in the sort of sub-levels of the earth, so that we don't have to send people there. So there's a lot of things going on, and some of them I can't talk about yet, but our cities, our way of life is going to be impacted in, I hope, a really interesting and good way by 5G when it's sort of fully rolled out.
And Jesper, in terms of Velux, you mentioned IoT. How much do you anticipate those kind of developments affecting your business?
A lot. I mean, I wouldn't say we depend upon 5G, but obviously, if we want to IoT things, if we want to, interconnect the home and build the home of the future and all these kinds of fancy things, we are dependent upon technologies that may not be here yet, or maybe they are. We just need to put them together in new ways. But the easier we can get power, and the easier we can get internet connectivity, the more fun we can get out of the windows, so to speak, and of the homes that we all live in, right? It's that's where my passion, our passion is. That is to figure out how do we create better homes, better climate with the use of technologies. The window is basically just a portal between you and the outside world, right?
Yeah.
And you know, everything that happens in there, how can we improve that somehow? Measuring not just humidity and temperature and these kinds of things, or carbon levels, all these kinds of things, but what else matters in a home too, especially now where everybody's working from home, right? How can we improve that environment that you sit in, that you spend so many hours in, that is not, like if you're in a working place where you go in and out, different rooms, what have you, when you're in your home all day long, it's just different, right?
Yeah,
and we want to be part of that.
Yeah, and yes, but then there comes one thing which is called business model. Because I remember 10 years ago, we were discussing that does it make sense to connect the devices? Who pays for it? But we are long past that now.
Yes.
So probably some companies are still thinking that does it make sense? Because it's a cost. And you know it, if it's a small appliance, it's still a cost. If it's a big appliance, it's a cost. So then that turns the whole game towards this customer journey or end user journey, that you have to have the connectivity, but what are the services on top that you can actually monetize? Yeah. And that will become extremely important. And I think at Telia, you are thinking that kind of with your 5G strategy quite a lot. It doesn't go only for the factories, IoT in the factories or industrial internet from that point of view. It goes to the business models of how can we do it differently for the customer. And that requires a new type of thinking, that it's not the product, the physical one, but it's going to be what you can enable and how can you change the lives of the people at the same time as you monetize it. And that's going to be a challenge, but it's a positive one.
Yeah, I totally to we have to think differently from a business model perspective. And also, I think that the key things for us we're thinking about is the technologies, what we can do there, and also the health of the human race, so to speak, and then the environment, so sustainability and considering to leave as small or zero footprint carbon-wise as possible. So there are some dimensions that we're trying to think into how we make decisions today. What that eventually is going to look like down the road.
And those are things that might be also interesting in terms of vendors, because if we have a sort of a carbon target, or we have these kind of environmental and sustainability targets, we're not going to work with vendors who cannot sort of live up to them. So it's a small piece, but that's worth to think about. So find out about the company's sort of policies around these things. Then you will also be a more easily used or relevant vendor.
True.
Okay. As we wrap up here in about 2 or 3, 4 minutes, give me sort of your kind of some crazy visions of the future, driven by COVID, driven by 5G, driven by digitalization. 2 or 3 suggestions of how the world has changed since then. Of course, less office space, that's an easy one, but give us some ideas of how radically some of your own working habits of your companies have changed, the board's perceptions, etc. Let's start with I don't know, Anna, you want to start again with that?
Well, I think that looking at my teams, we've had sort of an office space where you can sit anywhere you want in the 15 floors. So it's not sort of the FaceTime has not been important ever. So it's not really about that. I think that the main change is sort of the human aspects of collaboration and sort of energy that we give each other as people. And I think that for me, it's been mainly about that when we do the check-ins with the teams and we talk about what is sort of missing, productivity-wise, we are excellent. I think we've had a fantastic year, and people are really, really delivering and getting things done. But we miss each other. So I think that's been the key learning, that the people and the human aspects of sort of teamwork and being in a company and sharing a culture, those have become increasingly important on how do we solve these when we don't see each other. How do we onboard a person to feel that they now work for Telia company? feel the purpose of why we are here. When you don't get to see the people, you're not in the office, you're not in the same place, you're in your living room, and then you go have lunch in your kitchen and you come back to your living room, and none of that is Telia. So how do we make that happen? So that's one of my biggest, and to my leadership team also, the biggest challenge this year. How do we keep the cultural momentum and the feeling of being a team going?
Yeah, Jesper?
Yeah, I mean, whomever can come up with a way to augment that social, interaction is going to be a winner, right? I mean, I'm thinking about the USS Enterprise, not the aircraft carrier, but that space series years ago, right, where they used to put each other into different environments or into different places. I mean, we need to find ways to deal with that lack of social interaction somehow, and I'm very sure technology can help us with that. How? I have no clue, but it's gonna be needed. That's for sure. And for me, I mean, the things on my radar, it's what I already talked about, and I think also Petra summarized very well in the beginning, the 3 or 4 key drivers or key dimensions that we're all looking into constantly. How can we optimize cost? How can we improve the customer experience? And how can we, what was the last thing? How can we deal with our legacy and build on top of that and integrate with all the other technologies, the modularity of the ecosystems.
Okay, so digitize ourselves and ship us somewhere else and re-digitize it, put us back together again. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm expecting to hear something about that this afternoon.
I think we are running out of time, but so my thinking is simple, that we have suffered a tough year with COVID, but it brought benefits. So I have been always working virtual like this, so Teams meeting all the time and 5 meetings, like I have now 2 ongoing. So, but I'm here. So, but what changed in a company of 13,000 people, that it went the last mile. We had to adopt, we were laughing at this kind of, Microsoft HoloLens things, and that they will never come. It will take a lot of time. But because things changed, we actually implemented for the services that when people go on the kind of job site, we implemented, I don't know if it was HoloLens or if it was the Epson 1000 or what was the technology used, but we implemented this virtual reality full-blown in a company because it was the only thing to do. So we have kind of now this year as a global thing, both in Sweden and Denmark and Finland and across the globe, we have gone through a digital step that we have not seen in the last 20 years. We were lucky that we had this kind of technologies available like Teams and connectivity, and 5G will bring a lot. So this is what happened this year. And then if we look forward, I mean, if we just simply look at the AI power, 5G, NLP and stuff, we can do so much different things. And then if we add to that the connectivity and the culture that is changing in the companies, that they don't try to do everything themselves, they will partner up, they will find up new ways of innovation. It will be quite interesting 5-10 years. So let's see.
Cool. So we're gonna wrap up. Anna, thanks very much. Jesper, Petri, Kitos, thank you guys very much. Really interesting. And again, for those of you in the panels listening in, all of these various panels will be broken up into individual bites. So we'll have them available via the website and YouTube, so one can look at the Nordic panel only if you like, or the German panel, whatever you like. So we are now on to the next one, which is beginning the US afternoon. So thank you guys very much. Hopefully you'll stick around. I think a few guys want to meet with you for sure. Thanks again very much for your time, and we'll see you in the jury panel in about an hour.
Thanks.
Sounds good.